Our future is all about experiences, not about ownership. And the question is, what is the answer to EU's 2030 energy strategy? Please show your appreciation for Jarkko Jaakkola from MaaS Global. Vær så god.
Thank you. Hopefully you all had a good night yesterday. Sorry for my lack of Norwegian. If I would start to speak it, no one would understand it, not even me. So I think it's easier if I speak this in English. So even though Norway is not in EU, but I think the global challenges are common, even though it's even bigger than in the EU, it's global. But it's nice to see in the previous presentation about the last 3 trends. Those are actually the 3 ones that we at MaaS Global are trying to focus our goals to and try to, let's say, fix those challenges. A few words about us. We are the world's first MaaS operator, MaaS standing for Mobility as a Service. Helsinki, or the capital area in Finland, is the first market where we are already operational. We started our marketing campaign and launched our product at the end of November last year, and we have 25,000 users. Here are the partners that we have. So Helsinki Regional Transport representing the public service transport. Then we have a couple of taxi services which represent, let's say, about 95% of the taxis in the capital area. And we have the other 4 which are, let's say, traditional rental car companies. And more will follow. We are already negotiating with sort of like 30 different modes of transport that we can actually integrate into the service. So what will actually, we all know that the cities will change, we all know, and they are always in the phase of constant change actually. But what is driving the change is the urbanization. Currently we have about 54% of the population living in the cities, but it is estimated that over 67% of population will live in the cities in 2050, which means that there's going to be a lot of people coming in and moving into the cities. I'll go these slides quite fastly because the time is limited, but if you probably you will have access to these slides so you can check out the information later on. And cities currently can't cope with the urban mobility demand. Comparing 2010 and 2050, the urban mobility demand by traveled kilometers will be 2.6-fold. That's a lot of need for different needs or different modes for transport to get people from point A to point B and further on. And also if you look at New York, currently the average travel time is 149 minutes per day. So that's quite a lot. And out of those time, 38 minutes is actually spent waiting for the next transportation, sitting idly. Well, good time to do some social media. But what's also interesting is that the dissatisfaction rate, which is staggering 40%. I don't know any single company that could succeed with a 40% dissatisfaction rate. But public transport services can do that. Well, even though the cities are changing, the challenges seems to be the same. Any idea when this quote has been said? It is from London, and it's actually stated in the year of 1898. So we are looking at the same challenges in a way, even though it's already 140 years ago. And also what is interesting is that there's a picture of London about 100 years apart, and what is similar in these images is actually roughly the average speed. In London, on a 3-month study, the average speed was about 8 kilometers per hour. So it's not fast to travel from point A to point B. So going to the business opportunities, the global transportation market, there's a lot of zeros in it. I think in English it might be $9 trillion. There are different reports saying somewhere between 6 and 12, so depending on who you ask. And also, if we look at Finland, for example, the average revenue per user in the telecom industry is 25 euros, but in transport, people are spending 300 euros in transport a month, even though whether they know it or not, but that's how it is actually. So if you calculate on the average revenue per user, if Telia gets about 25 euros per user, and in transport there's 10-fold more to be gained. And I think Telia's market value is somewhere around 17 billion euros. There's a lot of potential for the growth. And also, the private car is, let's say, the worst economical decision, basically. So if you actually buy a car, in Finland, for example, where we do have quite high-priced cars, as you have over here in Norway as well, it was calculated that even though you don't drive a kilometer in your car, the cost of the car is about 480 euros a month. That cost comes from the depreciation, the insurance, the yearly taxes, and so on. And you use it for 4% of your time. Doesn't make any sense from the financial point of view. So the market is ready to actually change, and we see that there are three ways for the market to evolve. There's the winner takes it all, sort of the Uber approach, where one player will actually rule everything. That's one way to do it, but I don't think anyone will actually have the money to do it from the global point of view. They could work in one country or even few cities, but when you're talking about the global economy and the global transport market, the amount of money that you would actually have to put into the transport would be so staggeringly high that no one can actually afford it. And then there's the second one, the public transport takes it all. Okay, that's also possible, but I don't think that they would actually be the most flexible one or the most innovative one to change this industry. And there's the third one that we believe in, the roaming ecosystem, where there are a lot of players also playing together, not against each other necessarily, but with each other. For example, there's a company in Australia called MaaS Australia. For example, if our customer goes to Australia, why should we be there? We could actually make cooperation with the MaaS Australia so that our customers, when they go to Australia, they can use their services instead of ours. We don't have to be present ourselves everywhere. And the money itself, of course, the consumer pays for the transportation, and we are the ones who actually gather the money from the consumers, but we, in the end, actually pay for the transport service providers, whether they be in public or private. We are actually buying a lot of services from them. And also, when we buy the services from them, it actually flows down also to the infrastructure. So, one of the trends was the digitalization. What we actually called MaaS is the Netflix of transportation. I think what we are actually doing is gathering all modes of transport into a one monthly subscription. And you can get access to every single modes of transport what we can provide. We don't own any fleets ourselves, that's our partners. We only gather those modes of transport into one user-friendly app. That's, let's say, put it simply. But I think it's the same situation with the first buffet restaurant, the first guy who ever thought of that. I think everyone else said that, you're crazy, that will never work. And where we are today. A lot of buffet restaurants available throughout the world, but the point of this is actually the average user. There will be, in the beginning, the customers who are going to be very expensive to us, but when we have enough of user base, then if the average user is lightly profitable, then we can make some money out of this. But it's a long way, and this is a volume game, clearly. Our goal in the future, currently we are operational in Helsinki. We have a beta stage launch in Birmingham already, and we are planning to launch 15 to 50 cities this year. So the expansion plan is also ambitious. But where we are actually wanting to go is sort of the time point. So where we guarantee you let's say a 5-minute pickup time wherever you are in Europe, and we'll get you wherever you are going. You just have to tell us where you're going, and we will arrange it. And if you're a business user, you might not want to go with public transport, so we'll use taxis or whatever services there are available. But if you're on a vacation or something like that, you don't want to spend that much money, then we'll guide you through some public transport and try to get you there anyway. But that's the ultimate goal sort of for the MaaS concept. Currently, we already have 3 packages available. One is the Wim to go, so you pay with every ride you take. If you want to have a public transport ticket, you buy 1 ticket and that's it. If you want to rent a car, you do it. And that's sort of the entry-level model. Then we have the urban package, which includes the public transport. But what's also added into it is a 5-kilometer radius taxis, which are cheaper than via us, or to compare if you take a normal taxi from the road. And then we also guarantee a cheap rental car through our partners. But what we are actually focusing on is our sort of a crème de la crème. And this is something that nowhere in the world has ever been done before. With a 1 monthly fee, we are actually offering unlimited everything. Unlimited public transport, unlimited rental cars, unlimited taxis. That sounds too good to be true, right? Of course, there's a catch. So when you are actually renting a car, you cannot use the taxi services. So that's a little bit of the limitation, because what we are trying to do is not offering the people to be able to go from home to the office with a taxi. That's not sustainable. That's not the idea. And that's why there's also the 5-kilometer radius in the capital area. Basically, from anywhere in the capital area, you can get to a trunk line on the public transport within that 5-kilometer radius. So if there's slush coming from the sky, you can take a taxi to the subway line or the train line and then go downtown to work. That's the basic idea, because public transport is the trunk and the base of all MaaS operators. And what we are actually doing is changing the ownership to experience. I think in the previous access presentation it was from ownership to access, but we believe it to be the experience, especially when we talk about the younger people. They don't want to own a car, they want to have experiences. So why you have to commit yourself to a car where you can actually rent a new car any day you want, and what kind of a car you want. For the weekends, when you are packing your family and the kids to your summer or winter cottage, you might need a station wagon, all right? Rent that one. When you go take your kid to the soccer practice, okay, if the public transport doesn't work, then have a small car. And when the summer is good, you can actually rent a convertible. You don't have to own 3 cars. So this is also something that we are trying to gather people away from owning their car. They are the most difficult ones to lure to use the public transport. This is the only way that we can actually get them away from using their own private cars. There was a study in Tallinn where they released the public transport free of charge for the inhabitants. Do you know how much the user base increased? 6%. So let's say that even though you put all public transport free of charge, you still can't get people away from owning your own car or using it. So here's some results. I don't think I have that much time anymore. So as we can see here, this is a study that we did on our user base. Previously, 41% of the trips were actually made from using a private car. It actually fell down to 20%. So we were actually able to get them away from using their own car. The biggest beneficiary was the public transport. It increased a lot. And taxi services, they also gained. And here we can see the public transport. On average, we started out with 20 users. Of course, there's the summer holidays. It has been already increased to 42. December is different because of the winter holidays. So we're expecting to see what will happen on January and February. So the question was, will the MaaS be the answer to EU's 2030 energy strategy? Not alone. No one can do it alone. We need help from all players. But it is the, let's say, step towards the right goal. And we are trying to get the most difficult customers to use the public transport. Public transport can't get them alone. Thank you.
Tusen takk for det.